Some people ask me why I travel so much, and specifically why we travel with Henry so often. I think they think it's easier to keep the kids at home in their routines, surrounded by their stuff. It is. But we travel because it's there, because Capri exists, and Kenya exists, and Tel Aviv exists, and I want to taste every bite of it. We travel because I want my kids to learn, as I learned, that there are a million ways to live, a million ways to eat, a million ways to dress and speak and view the world. I want them to know that our way isn't the right way, but it's just one way. The children all over the world, no matter how different they seem, are just like the children in our neighborhood. They love to play, to discover, to learn. I want my kids to learn firsthand and close up that different isn't bad, but instead that different is exciting and wonderful and worth taking the time to understand. I want them to see themselves as bit players in a huge, sweeping, beautiful play, not as the main characters in the drama of our living room. I want my kids to taste and smell and experience the biggest possible world, because every bite of it, every taste and texture and flavor is delicious. Hey everyone, I wanted to talk about a book that I just finished, and hopefully I will also show you some of my CSA veggies and all sorts of other stuff that I feel kind of goes along with this book. But the book is Bread and Wine, and it's by Shauna and Niequist. So this book was recommended to me by Sarah from Your True Shelf, and she is just totally in sync with like my reading tastes and all that, and I just feel like when she tells me to read something, I need to read it because she's going to be 100% right that I would love it. So anyway, she told me to read this book. She said it was really good and that it mentioned Grand Rapids. And that's pretty much all she said about it. But here's the part she didn't know, and like basically why I fell in love from like page one. So first of all, this book is essentially a series of essays, I would say, just kind of contemplating life. And the whole of this book is kind of a bunch of essays that are connected around food, because food is a passion for the author. And basically, it's a way for her to see all these different aspects of her life as things that are interconnected and how much of our life is tied together with food. So that's kind of the premise of the book. The writing is absolutely beautiful. It is, the author is Christian, and so there's a lot of Christian references and themes in here, but I didn't feel like they were super, like, they weren't too much, I guess I would say. I just thought it was beautiful and spiritual and open to different ways of thinking, even though she comes from a Christian background. But yeah, anyway, she is from Grand Rapids, and so it was really cool to hear about some of the stuff that she mentioned. And there was even one point where there was a restaurant that was mentioned. And at that point in the story, you didn't specifically know that she was talking about Grand Rapids. But when she mentioned that restaurant, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's in Grand Rapids. I've been there. I've eaten there. I wonder if that's the same one, you know, that she's talking about. And then like a minute later, she did say that it was a restaurant in Grand Rapids. And I was like, I knew that. So there's actually a salad from that restaurant she mentions, and if I decide to at the end of this video, I'd like to include a clip of me going there to eat it, because I think that would be a really nice way to tie this book together. But why I was sharing that is because Grand Rapids is not the only place mentioned. Sarah knew I was familiar with Grand Rapids. I live not too far from Grand Rapids. It's a place I go to often because there tends to be a lot more like foodie sort of stuff there. But every single place that this author mentioned that was in the United States were places that I had been to. I had eaten there. I can tell you a story about every city she mentioned. And she also talks about Europe at some points, and so those were the only parts that I'm like, oh, like I haven't been to Paris and I haven't been to Italy and like stuff like that. But when she mentioned a place in Michigan or in Illinois, yeah, I had been to those places and I know them well enough to share a story about them or an experience of like what my connection to that place is. And so because this book was so connected to food and also so connected to place, I just felt this book was like a warm hug. It was so cool to read a book that felt so local and felt so familiar, and then was just so cozy in this friendship and community and food focus. I loved this book so much. And after each of the little essays, there's also like typically a recipe as kind of a transition in between the stories. And there's so many recipes in there that I would like to go back and try to make, because they all seem very fresh and simple. And I just feel like a lot of them would be really good with my CSA veggies that I'm getting this summer. But yeah, I just want to say, like, if you're into like connections between people, travel, food, anything like that, this would be a high recommend. If you just want something that's like gonna make you feel good, this is that. If you're going through a hard time, this could also provide comfort, because she doesn't stray away or shy away from sharing about difficult times in her life. She does talk about stuff. So if you need any content warnings, let me know or look into it. But yeah, she talks about how food and connections to other people comforts her during times that are difficult, because we're all going to have those times. So definitely 5 stars. Thank you, Sarah, so much for this recommendation. I absolutely loved it. Let me know if you have read this. If not, I feel like you should. I feel like it would be a very good book to dip in and out of as you're traveling this summer and sometimes are in a situation where you can't like give your entire focus to something, because you could just read one little section, enjoy the recipe, put it down. So yeah. Thank you so much, Sarah. I will see you guys soon.